give it a break, I'm trying to knock it on the head. I think I've got a bit of a problem. She said, okay. I said, well, what is it? She said, tequila. I love tequila. Because it unzipped my mind, and tequila got me into Alcoholics Anonymous. Tequila was my best friend because I hallucinated on it, and I started getting quasi-religious. Yeah, visions. I saw Jesus walking on Malibu Beach. And I was down in Palm Springs, and the Stones down around Idlewild were talking to me, and I was talking back to them. And I talked to the beach, and when I went through the Milky Way and back. I looked at the stars one night. I was up in Malibu, up in Trancas, and I looked at the stars. And I went right through the Milky Way and back. It was only that close to the Milky Way, and all the stars came up. And I told this person I was with, I said, the stars are really very, very near. She said, oh, really? Okay. And anyway, what happened was I started hallucinating. So I drank that tequila that night, and 6 months later I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I had the worst roller coaster. It was the worst time and the best of times. I was a menace to work with. I was trouble to work with. People who didn't trust me, and I'd turn up in the morning and for work, and people would look at me, hi Tony, how are you doing? Okay? And they'd give me that look, And I heard somebody say to the cameraman once day, he said, we better get him before lunch because he's just fooling around. I said, who are you talking about? They said, you. Because I wasn't fit for anything. And yet the director said to me, why are you doing this, Tony? You're so talented. Why? It's up to you, but why? They gave me that lecture. Why are you doing this? Don't you think you should cut down a bit? And I was given those lectures. Tony, it's such a shame you're going to kill yourself, your liver and everything. You're going to kill yourself. What I was more scared of was the driving. I used to get in my car and drive over the canyons, and I didn't know where I was going, and I would never remember the next day where I had been, and I'd check the front of the car to see if there were any dents or any blood or anything like that, because I didn't know I could have killed someone. And the police never caught me. I hope there are no policemen yet now, but they never caught me. I was so lucky, they never caught me. And I should have been thrown in the slammer many, many times, and I wasn't. I was just lucky I got away with it. And what happened in Christmas '75, my wife took off for England to see her folks. And I took her to the airport, and I said to her, I think I'm an alcoholic. She went very cold on me, because she said, well, maybe you are. It's up to you. And that hurt. And I dropped her at the airport, and I got out the car to let her out the car. I said, well, have a good time in Christmas. Yeah, and you. And she walked away. And I watched her. She walked into that arrival area, or the departure area, and I thought, wow, I think I've lost everything. I finally kicked out everything. All my friends have gone. I'm kicking everything out of my life. It's like I'm pushing away the very feast of life. And I got back to my apartment, and I was very depressed, and a couple of days later I drove down to Palm Springs. I was on my way I drove down to Arizona. I was on my way, really, to Santa Fe. I wanted to go down to the New Mexican. I wanted to find Carlos Castaneda. I wanted to find that peyote, because booze wasn't working for me anymore, and I wanted to find those magic mushrooms, or whatever they were. And peyote. And I got as far as Phoenix, and I stayed in some crummy hotel, and I sat there in that bar that night. It was Christmas Eve, and I sat there. God, I just remember this. Yeah, 25 years. I sat in that bar, and they had an old-fashioned jukebox, and I kept putting the quarter in the jukebox, whatever it was, and I kept playing Neil Sedaka's Solitaire. And there was boats and trains, the Bacharach song over and over again. And I remember these two big guys sitting on the bar stool. So he's going to put the same. Hey, he said, mister, can you change the tune? I said, don't you like it? Yeah, but not 15 times. Come on. I went up to my room, and I felt the despair and loneliness. And I decided I was going to become a country western singer. I don't know why you think that's funny. I'm not. Another great song was Tom T. Hall's Little Children, what is it, Watermelon, the old dogs, Little Children, and Watermelon Wine. That was my favorite. It's great. And Billie Holiday, of course. Billie Holiday. But anyway, I went up into my hotel room and I wrote on a piece of paper, I found myself in Phoenix, Arizona. I thought that would be good. Chris Christopherson or Tom T. Hawke could sing that. I get around to writing that, and I put the piece of paper on top of the cupboard. Now, why I put it up there, nobody would find it. It's probably still there. But I think of sending a message to myself. And next day, I phoned my wife in England, and it was early morning their time, and I said, "Happy Christmas." She said, "And you? Where are you?" I said, "In Phoenix, Arizona." "Oh, well, have a good time." She put the phone down, and that was it. I thought, well, I've really lost everything. The one person I could trust in my life is gone. And she trusted me. She put everything she could into this marriage, and I've just destroyed and betrayed everything. And I felt that deeply. And I drove back and made my way back to Los Angeles. And it was December the 27th, 75, and I sat in my apartment in Wilshire Boulevard and had everything going for me. I had a career, and I had, well, I don't think I had a wife left anymore, but I suddenly, I was losing my life, and I was aware of it. And I got another bottle of tequila, and I sat in that apartment, and what is that time? The Platter song, It's Twilight Time Again, or whatever it's called, I don't know. And I felt the loneliness that I guess we all feel at that point of desperation. And the phone rang, and I was invited to a party, and I went to this party up in Holmby Hills, and I sat under the piano most of the evening, which is not a place for a social drinker, but that's where I sat. And I made trouble, and as a friend of mine was an agent, and he said, "Come on, Tony, it's time you went home." And they stood me on the doorstep of the house, and I remember vaguely some people saying, "Is he okay?" And they were talking about me, and I said, "I've lost my car. Somebody's stolen my car." They said, "No, they didn't. Nobody's stolen it. You left it in the middle of the street with the lights on, and we saw you and rescued you, and your car's back in the apartment. We took it back, and we brought you here for your own safety." I said, "I don't remember anything of that." They said, "Well, you did." I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, one thing I do know is I'm an alcoholic, and I need help very fast." And something went on, the light turned on inside me, and I looked up at the trees, those eucalyptus trees, and I thought, somebody up there really likes me. I thought of that movie with Paul Newman, Somebody Up There Likes Me, and I thought, somebody up there likes me because I should have died years ago. I should have been killed, or I could have taken out a whole family in a car, in a car smash, an auto smash. And I said to this fellow, I said, I need help, and I need to phone Alcoholics Anonymous. And I went up to his house, and he got me the number. And I slept on this sofa, I think, and next day he dropped me up my apartment, and he said, "Well, good luck." And I didn't bother to phone AA. I didn't think it would be open on Sundays, but I waited until the Monday morning, and I phoned AA, and it was the West End sort of branch office of, it was in Westwood Boulevard then. And I phoned, and I said, and this woman said, "Hi, Alcoholics Anonymous, can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, my name is Tony, and I think I'm an alcoholic." And there's a very nice elderly voice of a lady. She said, "Okay, honey, can we come and get you?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm at the end of my rope." She said, "Well, that's beautiful." I said, I'm finished, I'm washed up." "Oh, that's great, just great." I said, she said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'll come in and see you." So I got the address, and I took my car, my poor battered car, after this long journey from Arizona, and I parked it just south of those old railroad tracks they used to have then on Santa Monica Boulevard. I started walking up that way, and on Westwood Boulevard, and I thought, maybe I'm making too much of a big thing of this. I'm an actor after all. Maybe I'm melodramatizing this. And another voice in me went off like a little whisper. It says, "Just get to the place and do something for yourself for once. Don't be such a jerk." And I went into this office, and it was up the stairs, I think I remember, and I expected to see a bunch of old people in rags holding on to each other. So I thought what it was, I really thought that, Joe would say to Doris, "Okay, Doris, you can drink tomorrow now. We'll come out with you and make sure you don't drink too much, and then it's my turn tomorrow." I had no idea. And I walked into this office, there were no drunks lying on the floor, it was just a nice, clean, pine wood little office, and this nice elderly lady called Dorothy, I came in and I said, my name's Tony. She said, hi, honey. And I thought, oh, I'm in with the Christian Brigade now, and tambourines, and Salvation Army. And that's wonderful, but I didn't want any part of it because I hated Christianity and church, whatever it is to do with worship. And I sat down, she gave me coffee, she said, and she described the nature of alcoholism. She came up with that same stupid phrase, if you don't take the first drink, you won't get drunk. I thought, these people are simpletons. And she said, give me your phone number, and, I'll get somebody over to see you, and they'll phone you and take you to a meeting. I said, meeting? Yes, a meeting. I said, is it religious? She said, no. I didn't know why I was quarreling, because I'd already seen Jesus walking on Malibu Beach. I'd been through the Milky Way. I'd seen the angels sing. And so, as I got up to go, she said the most astounding thing. She sprung the terrible 3-letter word on me.